What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the channel. So today we are reacting to 7 times WWE tried to unbury a wrestler and failed. Now, this seems to happen a lot of times where sometimes they'll try to revive a star that they have maybe ruined, but sometimes they don't. A lot of times they don't they're not able to, because I feel like at that point the damage has been done, the fans have turned on them, or at least the fans have stopped caring about what they're doing. And it's not saying that it's impossible to revive a person's character, because we've seen exceptions to that many times, and everything like that. But it's a really hard task to do, and we've seen it so many times. And honestly, a lot of these wrestlers aren't able to recover as a result of that. So we're gonna go back down memory lane. Shout out to What Culture Wrestling for this video. We will be reacting to this today. You guys can let me know who are some wrestlers that you feel may be um potentially misused or mishandled, or maybe have been buried, and you would like to see them get another opportunity, but I don't think it's might be seem like it's a foregone conclusion that it's more likely not going to happen. So you guys can let me know. But if you guys are new to the channel, leave a like on this video, super kick that like button, Superman punch that post notification button, and spear that subscribe button as well. But without further ado, let's wait. We're not gonna waste no time. Let's get into it.
I would agree that somebody like LA Knight could be used more, as we are talking, but he has had an amazing career. I mean, the dude is a superstar. I think there's a lot in that too, in the sense that if you do make it to WWE, well, the clue is in the name. Imagine the first time you went to training. That's the dream. You're being paid a fortune to wrestle. You should be proud. You made it to the tippity top. At the same time, sometimes WWE does just boom somebody into oblivion when they wake up one day and go, oh, wait, we've changed our mind. By then, it's probably too late. So I am Simon Miller, and on behalf of What Culture Wrestling, this is 7 times WWE basically failed to sort it out. Number 7, Jinder Mahal. Where else would we start? I feel so sorry for Jinder Mahal with this, because when he did become WWE champion from nowhere, the shift in presentation and the addition of the Bollywood boys was great. In terms of trying something different and committing to it, it could have been awesome. The issue was, as ever, WWE was so impatient. The timeline genuinely saw Jinder go from opening match guy to main event star in weeks. Forget the perception of the audience, but that's just lazy creative. With a proper story and Mahal given some time to cut such a cool rise, you see it develop every single week, we start talking about it on the internet, the conversation around it now would have been totally different. Instead, it was genuinely weeks between these, and Jinder was not given the opportunity properly. Like, if you don't know, I have no hair, I'm bald. If I turn up on my next visual video with a wig, well, you're going to start asking some questions. If we do jump to the 15th of January 2024 Raw as well, kind of like Britney Spears, it happened again. Mahal was given a random title shot against Seth Rollins, and while usually this would have been forgotten about quite fast, it then became a fight. As the wrestling community had given AEW a hard time for Hook receiving similar treatment, Tony Khan compared the two, and caused an online riot.
I did remember
True,
that.
though. Both companies had basically done the same thing. Jinder Mahal then asked tongue-in-cheek who Hook was, as WWE tried to use this to generate some headlines.
The fact that when he did this, not too long after he got released,
he never used him again. Then he got released.
Yeah.
I tell you, that was a really weird week. Number 6.
Look, let me be honest with you guys. And I'm not saying I'm a complete Jinder Mahal hater or anything like that. I mean, don't hinder their gender, right? We can't. I'm not gonna sit here and like I said, I'm the biggest fan of Jinder Mahal, because I'm not trying to hinder the gender or anything like that. But the problem was not him being pushed to that level. The problem is how fast they did it, because the guy just went from a literal first ballot Hall of Famer jobber to main eventer in the span of a month. Like, if we would have taken maybe like 4 months, maybe I think the reception probably would have been a little bit different. And I think people probably would have been a little bit more keen and open to the idea that we're pushing Jinder Mahal, right? I mean, his physique was there, but his promos weren't doing him any favors. His in-ring work wasn't good either. So it's like, we're putting a little jobber in a main event, and I understand that they wanted to kind of be able to pander to the Indian market, but I just don't think they should have done it in that way. I think we could have still done that. Maybe you could have made him an Intercontinental Champion or US Champion. That's fine, but we're talking WWE Champion, meaning you're literally at the top of the card, the peak of this entire company. And to be honest, no one really saw it in Jinder. I'm sorry, it's not a knock on Jinder. It's just the fact that they rushed it really too fast. Like, how do you go from first ballot Hall of Famer jobber to WWE champion in a month? And then you beat Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal beats Randy Orton numerous times. He had that god awful feud with Shinsuke, and then he dropped it back to AJ. So it's like it really didn't do anything as far as like making him a star in the grand scheme of things. To some, they would probably say, well, it made him a star, but not necessarily because it really didn't propel him. People didn't really want to see him as WWE champion, and it showed with his promos. It's like even though you put the championship on him, his problems were still there. It didn't fix it. It didn't make him feel like this presence that you should fear when you're in the ring. And honestly, I do think I like the fact that they tried to take a risk, but it failed miserably. To be fair,
Dunne. Pete Dunne is one of the best wrestlers in the world. If you are watching this in 2026, go and watch his Attack Wrestling match with Leon Cage because it is brilliant. The man is one of a kind, and shout out to Leon too. Mother Hubbard's got a bright future. After Dunne got signed to WWE, he was the man in NXT UK, and when he got to the main roster, well, yes, he became Butch. Sort of ridiculous, but hey, fans bought into it to a certain degree because Pete decided, well, if this is what I'm going to be given, I'm going to give it all I've got. I would assume he was hoping for the Brawling Brutes to eventually be broken up, it is the WWE main roster after all, and then get used properly, but everything went nuts. Vince McMahon left WWE, Triple H was now in charge, and yeah, the game was a huge fan of the Bruiserweight, so he was back to his old self in no time. We did the same with his buddy Tyler Bate, but that actually became the problem. While as a tag team they were really good, the whole tag team division then just faltered. That meant there was no real hoopla about them becoming a pairing, and even when Bate came back from that injury, they did one match and vanished again. It was weird. I'm surprised they didn't end up on the side of a milk carton. Today, of course, they have been repackaged as El Grande Americano 2 and El Grande Americano 3, and look, that whole gimmick is fun. They're so talented, and they do make it work. I guess in many ways it has been a wild ride. But when they were a normal tag team, well, that did not click at all, just because it wasn't given time to. You can't take somebody who's named after a dog and then go, just forget about that. He's in a duo now. You gotta give them some wins. And guess what WWE did not do? That. Number 5, Apollo Crews.
and here's the thing, bro. When I look at Pete Dunne, right? Look at the matches that he had in NXT UK. The match they had with Gunther or Walter at the time. The match they had with Tyler Bate when they were, battling over who's become the first UK champion. Dude, when I tell you this guy was having banger matches, right? No pun intended. And then when he came to the main roster, they didn't really do anything with him. To be fair, I know he had like a little stint, in NXT, especially and we were seeing how Triple H was able to use him in NXT. I mean, he became one half of the tag team champions between him and Matt Riddle at the time. So me thinking on the outside looking in, especially when Triple H took over and knowing who his favorites were, especially from being in the Black and Gold era, and that was like one of my favorite eras of professional wrestling, the Black and Gold era of NXT. I was really thinking they were going to do something with um Pete Dunne because Pete Dunne was very young. I think he still is relatively very young. So I was thinking like, okay, well, now that we have him on the main roster, maybe we can start building him up, put him in the mid card, have him potentially win the IC title or the US championship and have him run with that for a little bit. And I was like, we were seeing all these dream matches with Walter or Gunther, sorry, when he became Intercontinental Champion. And this was one of those matches that I was hoping that they would have been able to put on, but we didn't ever get to that because at the time they had Butch or in Brawling Brutes. They changed Pete Dunne's name to Butch and put him in the Brawling Brutes, and he was like a henchman in that story that they did between Imperium and the Brawling Brutes going into like Clash at the Castle that year. And then they got rid of that eventually. Then they put him in another tag team with Tyler Bate, which I mean it works. It works in a way, but then it's like knowing at the same time we know he could be doing a lot better just knowing how good he could be in ring. And now that you have him in AAA, is another henchman with the El Grande Americano gimmick and stuff like that. I mean, granted, it is giving him some type of television time, so maybe in the grand scheme of things, this can ultimately help him find himself again. But I really hope that they can. I don't think it's safe to say it's probably not gonna. Pete Dunne, the bruiserweight that we all know and love, is probably not gonna be seen anymore at this point. I want to be wrong, but I just feel like that's the plan that they're going with. So.
So let's just tie this into the intro. Apollo Crews had a great WWE career, even if he was never used properly. Yes, he was called up from NXT with zero plan, but a decade with the world's biggest wrestling promotion, there's something to that and way worse ways to live. It is a shame though when you do go through it beat by beat, because WWE never really understood what they had here, which made it stranger when for snippets of times they did go, yeah, we should try again. For example, one day Apollo walked out as a Nigerian king and won the Intercontinental title, and he even feuded with Big E. Now look, this was not good, but my gosh, it totally fell off a cliff when Crews revealed this wasn't his idea, meaning Vince McMahon came up with it. I mean, good grief. He then went back to NXT and could see through time or something. I don't really understand how to explain that one to you because it was NXT being weird. And every now and then he would get a mini push when bam, dead again. Just never got any momentum. It felt like maybe Apollo would get a solid run in AAA when WWE tried him down there. And let's face it, he never had a bad match. But I suppose 2026 finally caught up with him. And yep, he got released. Now you never want to see anybody let go because it does suck, although it does feel like there could be a net positive here. Crews basically has become the master of proving over and over again that he has still got it because of course he's still got it. When you can't show off what you do have unless you're actually put on TV. Or you give it 6 months and we'll all be singing his praises again. Then WWE will likely try and bring him back. It's a tale as old as time. Number 4, Johnny Gargano. So there was a time when Johnny Gargano wouldn't have even been signed to WWE. It was all 6'2" plus jack dudes only. I don't want to be horrible, but that is not Johnny Gargano. It's why the black and gold era of NXT was so important because it proved that most fans just ways to do that, and yeah, go back and watch the takeovers from this period. That is some good stuff. I think there was a time where fans were worried about a main roster call-up for Johnny Gargano too because of how Vince McMahon treated such wrestlers, which is why actually re-teaming him with Tommaso Ciampa was smart. It was a massive slap in the face if you watched their feud in NXT, but you remember what happened to most guys when they did jump from one to the other, whatever safety net they could get. The WWE also needed more tag teams at the time, but go back 2 entries ago. For the last few years, the whole scene has just felt like an afterthought when we got that surprise return in 2022. That was clearly meant to be a reset, but yeah, within a month or two, he was back in the same position. But today, if you are watching this in 2026, well, he mostly lies on a box. Now, I don't mind that because Guthrie wrestling for life, but it does have to go somewhere. And at the moment, he does just quite literally lie on a box as Candice LeRae goes nuts at him. It just doesn't seem like this has been planned out at all, so we are just going week to week, which never works. It also does mean you fall down the pecking order, and that's not great. I really don't know what WWE wants to do with Johnny Gargano, especially because, of course, Tommaso Ciampa left the territory. But I hope it's something bigger than this, because the man is way better. Number 3, Zelina Vega. Go back to Zelina Vega and Andrade's run, especially in NXT, because man, what were we thinking? We should have just copy and pasted that onto Raw or SmackDown because it was so good. Do you remember what we did in 2020 after all this too? I bet you don't, because while they were still together, Austin Theory and Angel Garza were also added to that group, and nobody recalls this, not even WWE. They didn't even find the time to give them a name. They then instantly started losing and arguing, so Zelina left so fast, so what was the point of this? Although her plan was to go on to win singles gold. You know what happened instead? She got let go in November, which means we got that old curse. You get bad creative, you can't do anything about your bad creative, and then you lose your job. Now, it soon transpired that Zelina had left because of a disagreement over third-party rights. She was a Twitch streamer and WWE wanted some of the profits, and yeah, that was unfair. That's non-work time. Zelina actually brought up the point of a wrestling union, which was ballsy when she returned in 2021. It was kind of a smart comeback too, as WWE booked her to win the King of the Ring. Then, well, say it with me, nothing. I guess she did get a run with the tag belts alongside Carmella, but look at the tournament today. If you do win the Queen of the Ring, you get a title shot. Kind of sums it up. From nowhere, she was also in the Latino World Order and won the Women's US title, but man, that championship was nothing from day one, and it was not the fault of the wrestlers. She then had that nothing time with Aleister Black, and what happened after that? She was gone again. So it really didn't make sense. It was 2 + 2 = potato. And I'm not sure WWE even knew what their end goal was. Number 2, Aleister Black. And we should talk about her husband. Say it with me, it was also so weird. But after Paul Heyman was given more creative control in 2020, he went to bat for Aleister Black, and yeah, the man had something and was different, new stars were needed. And at one point, Aleister rumoredly was even in the conversation to win the Royal Rumble. Of course, that went to Drew McIntyre instead. Why we couldn't have done 2 stories, I do not know, but Black followed this up by locking himself in a dark room and saying he wanted matches. This went on for ages too, and he never left that closet. I mean, you could practically see the butting of heads of the creative process on your television screen. Paul Heyman wanted one thing, and somebody called Vince McMahon wanted something else.
Exactly.
If only WWE had at the very least decided to keep the tag team going with Ricochet, because go watch those two in NXT. It is so good. And then once again in 2021, he was released. Apparently nobody could come up with one good idea. Now, it did result in an awesome debut for AEW, but the Malachi Black story is one for another video. And ultimately, he returned to WWE in 2025, and then he was gone 1 year later. What? Go watch that entire 12-month period too. WWE clearly wanted to present him as a top dude, but they just never pulled the trigger. The Damian Priest feud was okay, but also spread out at best. And then he was meant to do something with Randy Orton at WrestleMania 42, when WWE just didn't do it. I guess his role went to Pat McAfee instead. Fans were mad about that. Black got let go. And I tell you, my friends, absolutely no idea what anybody was thinking. Number one.
That's the thing with Alistair. Like, and if you see his stuff that he did in NXT, I don't understand how they couldn't just copy and paste what they just did on NXT and just put on the main roster. Like, it's easy. It's not that hard. It's simple. Like, the fact that you have a guy that can go in the ring, can have a great character, and has this aura and mystique about him that people like, and you find nothing for him, it just is baffling. You had an opportunity to do him and Randy at some point if Randy was to win the championship, and if you wanted to keep him babyface or turn him heel, that's fine. But then you can also play off the story between Cody and Alistair from AEW, and then after that feud, maybe at some point down the line, you can have Randy and Alistair have a match and a feud. These two, I think, can have an amazing match and create an amazing story as well, but they did nothing. It's like he just spent 12 months on the WWE main roster for no reason because they didn't do anything. He didn't win any gold. He didn't win the Intercontinental Championship, the U.S. Championship. He didn't win anything. I don't understand what we're doing. How can you not? How are you failed to book Aleister Black? Not once, but twice. You had 2 times that first time you let him, he got let go by Vince. This was an opportunity to bring him back under the Triple H regime and actually be able to do right by Aleister, and they failed to do it again. I don't get it, bro. I don't understand how they have not been able to capitalize on how good Aleister Black truly is. I don't get it.
Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler was let down by his WWE creative. It's just true. As above, he had a great run there, but when somebody is this talented, at least try them as a proper upper tier guy.
Right.
See what happens, then at least you know and you can write it down in a book. The fact he got compared to Shawn Michaels summed it up because that doesn't just happen. For whatever reason, Vince McMahon just didn't care. I mean, I guess the evidence was looking us in the face. He called him Dolph Ziggler. Even after great world title wins and Money in the Bank cash-ins, though, everything was always a bit strange. When in 2017, I think WWE wanted to try again. A program with Bobby Roode saw him get mad at how the company was run to the point he relinquished his just one US title after being victorious. As a little bit like, yeah, that'll show him, Dolph. Take that championship you worked so hard to get and then just leave it at the door. Now, this was in December, and I suppose the idea was that Dolph Ziggler was meant to have checked out for good when he just returned at the Royal Rumble one month later.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing, bro. They always failed with Dolph Ziggler. I feel like they were trying, but I think when he got he had that concussion during his world championship reign, I feel like the WWE started to see him in a different light to where they don't view him as reliable, and he can't be one of those guys anymore. I don't know. They were still, allowing him to be featured on weekly television, and it showed like they still had confidence in him as a performer, but I think past a certain limit, they didn't see him past like upper mid card. I don't think the higher up seen him past that. They didn't see him as a main eventer when everybody, for the most part, was clamoring for him to become a world champion numerous times throughout his career. I think he could have been a 5-time world champion, 5 or 6-time world champion throughout his duration of his WWE career, to be fair. And he was one of those guys, to me, to be fair, where you look at it, he could be a WWE for lifer, to be fair. Like, he can be there for the long run. When he's done, he can help put over the next generation. He can help coach, be a producer, all of that. He could have done all of that, and now he's doing some amazing work in TNA as Nick Nemeth, and is now currently the TNA World Champion. I'm loving what he's been doing as a character, as a performer, and he's showing how good he can really be when given the ball and given the green light to really run with it. And he is knocking it out of the park with flying colors, in my personal opinion. So it's just showing that he could have been everything that he is right now in the WWE, but unfortunately, the higher ups did not want that to happen. And it sucked. And this was a moment that I think a lot of people going into the 2018 Royal Rumble probably was like saying maybe Shinsuke could win it, maybe Roman Reigns unfortunately was gonna win it. Look, there were three guys that I was really hoping potentially won, and one of them was Shinsuke, who ultimately ended up winning that match. But another one was Finn Balor, considering he had an amazing performance in that Royal Rumble. I think he came out at number 2, made it to the final 4, and then Dolph Ziggler came back in this Royal Rumble at number 30, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm thinking, wait, maybe they could potentially rejuvenate Dolph Ziggler here after he went away for about a month and a half or something like that after giving up the U.S. Championship. Maybe this was kind of like a refresh for him coming back and getting back into the swing of things, becoming the Royal Rumble winner potentially, and challenging AJ Styles, which I think those two can have an amazing match. And kind of looking at hindsight, it probably would have been a better match than what we got at WrestleMania 34 between Shinsuke and AJ. You would think on paper that match would have been good, but that match was absolutely awful. So I probably would have taken Dolph Ziggler in this scenario because I think this match would have delivered. This would have potentially set up maybe a Dolph Ziggler coming back as a more serious heel, and maybe potentially put the WWE Championship in and try to give him an actual run with the belt. And unfortunately, none of that happened. They kept him as a jobber, and then he ultimately ended up getting released, and now he's killing it in TNA.
This was a CM Punk 2011 situation. It was just too soon to have the impact that WWE wanted. Ziggler was thrown out in 2 minutes as well after chucking Goldust, and just to make it even worse, he was number 32.
Facts.
So fans got mad about that. They thought the big 3-0 spot had been wasted. Sadly, everything from there till 2023 when he got his release was just more, why aren't we doing more with Dolph Ziggler conversations? And even Dolph has admitted subsequently he would email Vince McMahon saying, if you're not going to do anything with me, why can't I exit stage left? So he knew. It will, however, always be a what-if situation, even though, as we do stand here today, Dolph Ziggler still had an amazing run. I guess to sum it up in 6 or so words, though, the truth is, my friends, it just should have been a hell of a lot more. No many other wrestlers that kind of went...
We can all agree it could have been a lot more, but then again, like I said, they chose not to do anything with them, and it suffered because of it. And a lot of these names, I think, ultimately suffered because of bad booking, bad creative. And we all can agree a lot of these, wrestlers could have been a lot more than they were, but unfortunately they're not. And hopefully some of these ones that were on this list that got released in the recent like batch of releases, like from Zelina, Alistair, and even Apollo Crews, who's now in TNA. Hopefully all these guys are able to land on their feet and really do something amazing and really just find themselves again and really just show that they can be bigger than the system. So hopefully we'll see how everything does play out with a lot of these wrestlers' careers going forward. But you guys let me know in the comment section down below which wrestler on this list do you think could have been who do you think on this list probably should have been pushed a lot more than they were and pretty much should have gotten a lot more than they did. Let me know in the comment section down below. Road to 3,000 subscribers. Ultimate goal is 10,000 by the end of 2026. Follow me on all social media platforms as well. With that being said, hope everybody has a great day, great week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.